this is Kimberly. You know, the question has been asked over and over again. Are Chris McNabb and Courtney Bell really cousins? And are they really first cousins? Yes and yes. A lot of people are grossed out by that notion. Maybe they've never heard of it. Maybe they don't know anyone in such a situation. I have a family member, two actually, that are married and they're first cousins. In case you're wondering, no, they never had children. It actually used to be pretty common back in the day. I don't know which day, but long ago, probably a while back. What the hell is while the while? Why did I even say that? I tell you, some shit stuff comes out of my mouth, and it surprises me as much as it does y'all, believe me. But back to Cousin Chris and Cousin Courtney. I don't think it is so much these days, or maybe no one just talks about it anymore. You're not allowed to ask anybody any personal questions. Not that you were ever allowed to, but people, had piss poor manners and shit, and everybody's too scared now because you'll get canceled or something. God almighty, Kimberly. You mean you can get canceled if you talk about first cousins marrying or something? I don't understand. Well, Kimberly, it turns out that some people don't consider that to be polite conversation. Oh, well, I say it's none of their fucking business. I have always said, do you. If that's what makes you happy, go for it. The heart wants what the heart wants. As long as you're not hurting anyone in the process of doing you, then go ahead. Give yourself permission. Do you? I mean, what, you're gonna deny yourself because of what other people think? Stop that. They're gonna forget what they said to make you stop doing that, and they're not even going to think about you while you're sitting over there being miserable. And of course, I'm saying this not only for marrying your first cousin, if that's what makes you happy, but broader sense of the word or words. You know what I mean, okay? It's not good for your mental health. Tell people to shut up and fuck off and stay out of your business. There's just maybe no one talks about it anymore. There's lots of other things to talk about. I think it pales in comparison. Now that you can be any sex you choose, it may or may not be the one you were assigned to at birth. And what's more, it's nobody's flipping business now, isn't it? You can't ask them. You can change your mind whenever you want to, multiple times a day, and no one can get mad about it. I have decided that I identify as a paperclip. Who's going to tell me I can't? I'd like to see them tell me I can't. Talk about don't ask, don't tell thing. It's just, you just pretend like you don't notice that they seem like a Pat. Did you ever watch that on Saturday Night Live, Pat? And you could never tell if Pat was a male or a female. And even when you tried to ask, you got a nondescript answer. But yes, you can be any sex you choose now. And they will assign you one at birth. But it's only a suggestion. Well, my thing is, once the generations that we have going on now, once they die out, how are people going to know how babies are? But even if they do figure it out, they'll be bad-mouthing us. Ooh, can you believe back then they only had two sexes? And people be like, oh my God, how simplistic and oppressive. Or what gets them going so that they're born? How does one procreate? Do you just go around mating and hope one clicks and you get a baby? Going to be interesting to see, but I won't be around, for God's sake. You can marry whoever the hell you want, and it's nobody's flipping business, and you don't have to talk about it if you don't want to, and that's just the 360 from how it used to be, where you would be, are you male or female? You better answer right now. None of this messing around where you might be put in an institution if you tried to depart from the norm, whatever, or average. Who the fuck's normal anyway? Average. So, as you may or may not recall, this trial took place in Covington, Georgia. We are talking about, of course, the Chris McNabb, Cortney Bell case, who were on trial in the murder, and they were convicted in the death of their daughter, Kalia Claire McNabb, who was 15 days old. She was a little newborn, only been home from the hospital for a few days because she spent a few extra days in the hospital, and then someone did wrong by her, and Chris McNabb was charged with it, and found guilty. That's all I can say. Who the hell knows for sure what happened? A lot of odd shit in this case. She was said by the medical examiner to have died from blunt force trauma to the head. Her little newborn baby head. Cortney Marie Bell, she never wanted to be a mom. Her mother abandoned her and was not in her life for the first 12 or so years. She was occasionally, but she didn't know it was her mother till she found evidence. You'll see that evidence today if you don't already know what it is. What I mean, that evidence will be explained through court testimony. Cortney, had a bad taste in her mouth from her own mother. She was raised by her father and her grandparents, and she didn't know who her mother was until she was sneaking a cigarette at age 12 while her designated adult was in the grocery store, who didn't know that she smoked. They probably wondered why they ran out of cigarettes faster than they thought they should. But yeah, she was on trial, and she's now in prison for 15 years. Then she'll have 15 years probation. But her own views on motherhood changed, she said, until she met Trouble, one of those bad boys that for some reason many of us females are attracted to. We don't actually like them being bad, though. I don't know, it must exude something sexy or some dumb shit like that. You don't think straight when you're strongly attached or attracted to someone. Cortney Dingbell's choice of bad boy was that meth lab boy. He was quite scruffy looking too, that she no doubt met at, one of those house parties. I don't know where they met. They never said. No, never mind. Christopher Michael McNabb, a.k.a. her cousin. They didn't know they were cousins at first. They said, this will all be explained in some videos that I will play for you after I finish nannering on and on. Pam Hamby, that's Cortney's mom. You know what? I take that back. She does not deserve to be called a mom, because she was not that to Cortney. She's her biological mother. You could maybe even call her a surrogate. I do know that she wasn't there. She carried Cortney and gave birth to her. I have this thing where I hate it when someone gives birth, they didn't prevent having a child, whether it be male or female, and then they ignore them. It's a very sore subject with me. Very. She was out hoeing around. I mean, being a free and easy spirit, tossing aside her morals and preconceived notions, and then instead of preconceived, she had conceived a baby, 7 of them. She's just a damn baby making machine, and 5 were given to their one night stands. I mean, their biological fathers. One of those was Cortney's father, Tim Bell, and then so she would go on to her next guy, and she did not want to be tied down, I guess, by raising kids. Well, she did like being tied down too, but she did slow down just enough to raise 2 of them, I think. I have no clue what their ages are, those children, if they're still young. But people are still asking if these were indeed cousins, and all signs point to yes, they were. And I have assembled a little video that proves the facts that yeah, they were. But there's always a but. They did, that we'll let them explain it. It's their love story. Did y'all note how Chris and Shit 2.0 Meth Lab proclaimed his love for Cortney Bell before he was hauled off to prison? I thought that was just precious. Too bad she wasn't in the courtroom at the time. They were separated for their sentencings. Too bad they weren't separated for their trials, so we could see her facial expression. I hope someone told her. Here, I'll play it right here. This was right before, I think, or right after. He was trying to explain away that he was not masturbating in front of that doctor, he says.
Let the record show that I don't think I ever put my hands on her in front of those kids, and I just don't feel like just because somebody has domestic issues with the female in their life that they love, that they were just able to just say, oh, he don't love you and all that stuff just in front of everybody.
I should probably get back to talking about the trial now. You can find that bit in the last episode of As the Mobile Home Park Wheels Turn. I'll link it at the end of the video. So this trial was in Covington, Georgia, just outside of Atlanta.
Where do you live currently?
In Covington.
And specifically what address?
I don't need to know my address.
And in Georgia, you are able to marry a first cousin. Legally, they do. The Georgia probate court, though, does draw the line that you cannot marry a parent or a child, a sibling, a grandparent, aunt, or uncle. So see, it's good that he moved on to Cortney, because it would never have worked out if Aunt Pam and nephew Chris and Shit 2.0 wanted to get married. And as a bonus scene, you will see where Aunt Pam explains, under testimony, mind you, or explains away the relationship between her and her nephew. Yeah, she does. So he broke that shit off and went on to Cortney. So it was all on the up and up. However, in full disclosure, there is some social media evidence to the contrary that he might have been doing them at the same time, but I'm going to save that for the Bits and Bobs video. I don't think it fits here with this official court documentation, testimony bullshit. Stuff. So yeah, we'll have another Bits and Bobs coming up soon. Let me get back to where the state of Georgia explains their stance on this, whether by blood or marriage. That's quite interesting. About the aunt or uncle by blood or marriage, or a sibling you're not really related. Wow. Okay, so I don't get why they prohibit all of that when they allow cousins to marry that are related by blood. I'm not against it. I'm just wondering what their difference is. There's got to be a logical reason behind it that I don't understand. Kind of like when I was a kid, I would ask about something and my mother would tell me, oh, you wouldn't understand. Oh, my effing God, that used to piss me to no end. Still does. I'm positive of it. I am confident in that because our lawmakers, they do it right. I was being facetious. It's not ladylike of me, is it? Damn it. Fuck. Now I ruined it. I hear my mother in my ear, y'all. Just ignore her. Some people I don't know. I'm not going to go there. That's a very, very touchy subject. What I mean is people were just blowing it up in the comments, both in my comments and 11 Alive and on Court TV. Anyway, we're not going to go there, okay? So, even though Chris and Cortney declared to the world that they were married, they in fact were not. But again, that's really no one's business anymore. Unless you decide you want an annulment. Nope, you can't have that in Georgia. If you married your cousin, you cannot tell them, hey, I want this annulled. They're like, no, you knew what you were doing. You got married to your cousin. Now that you've had time to think about it, you will not be considered for anything other than a divorce. I think I would make a good judge. What do y'all think? Anyway, you made your bed, now lie in it. Well, that's what got this mess going in the first place, if you think about it. Laying in bed with lower back pain. Oh, that's me. I mean your cousin, laying in bed with your cousin. Who would have thought the family members only family reunion was the new pickup scene in Georgia around the Covington area? That's probably what got all this social distancing stuff started. Wasn't that virus? It was marrying your cousin. What am I saying? That doesn't make sense. Please forgive me. I was under anesthesia yesterday. But remember when the social distancing stuff first got started? They were even recommending that you do it with a mask on when you're with your spouse. And that's some heavy shit. I immediately got on our family text group with, it has the 5 of us, me and my husband, the 3 kids. We were all adults now, 2 daughters, 1 son, and my son is married, and I told him what they had said on the news, that you need to wear a mask even and he told me to shut up and to stop talking about that, and how dare I go there, and yada yada yada. Anyway, I wonder, did the birth rate decline in the last year? I wonder if they've done studies on that, or if it increased since everybody was stuck at home. It'd be like, you want to do it? Well, I guess so. Oops, I'm pregnant, And then they look at each other and go, we can't afford another kid. We ain't been working in the last year. But I want to know, how do you get over that naked in public feeling now that you're able to venture out without a mask? Or so they said, and I got all excited. But everywhere I've been since that announcement, they're like, put your flippin' mask on. I don't want to. I don't have to. And they say that I don't need to be a customer then. Like, oh, I see. So why was I bullied? Talked into getting this shot that I didn't want to get. We all know what I'm talking about. It's one of those things of whence we must not speak here on the YouTubes. But what was the point in that? If we're not going to stop wearing masks, I am confident that number 1, I won't infect anybody, and number 2, I won't get infected, or number 3, I accept that chance that I will get infected, or rather that I could get infected. Don't think I will, but I'm an adult. I can make my own decision, and I'm going to stop talking now because I don't want to get all controversial and shit. Too late for that. Everyone blushing, or is that just me? But yeah, so if you marry your cousin in Georgia, the only way out of it is a DIORVCE, like Tammy Wynette. I think she was the one that sang that, and that was a long time ago, back in the 60s or 70s, 1960s or 70s. But what I recommend in Georgia, in the Covington area, is premarital education. In Georgia, you can receive credit for the marriage license fee. I need to look up and see how much that is, but you can waive that fee if you attend a premarital education class. The class must be at least 6 hours long and will typically cover common marital topics such as financial planning and conflict resolution. I think it needs to be more than 6 hours, and I think they need to watch some real live action. Well, they probably have if their parents are still married. But you'll need a certificate from the program to take to the county when applying for your license. Now, I recommend people attend this premarital education class, but I think they need to start it in middle school, and they need to bring some real-life miserable married people to argue about petty shit up there in the school auditorium. No one's allowed to leave until they put the conflict resolution into action, and both parties have agreed that they are satisfied with the results. Think I'll run for some political type of office in the education area. Pfft, nah. Okay, that's pushing it though, doing that. But the kids will be depressed, and they'll attempt to abide by all of the shit. People that attend these classes, if they really listen, they're going to be depressed, but they're going to attempt to abide by all the shit their partner said that pissed them the fuck off, but they can't do this shit anymore. Besides, they've not even done the financial planning and outed each other out on their secret credit cards and shit. They're both raising their hands wanting to ask if they can just do a bankruptcy and get out under all that wedding debt, like Chris and Shit and Shanann did. And they promised not to go out and do it all over again. And they did in 2 years. Oh, that was Chris and Shit and Shanann. Give a young couple with zero debt when they've been drowning in it for years, and they're going to lose their fucking mind. That's very dangerous. Bull in a china shop blunder. Dangerous. Shanann and Cassie all tipsy and Punta Cana. Precarious, problematic, dangerous. No, they need to bite the bullet and pay off all that shit they got themselves into, like my husband and I did. We've been free for years now. It's so freeing. And it feels good to have paid it off yourself rather than make everybody else pay for it, which is ultimately what happens. That's why prices go up and rates go up and stuff. You got to pay off for those that don't or can't. I understand when you can't. Life happens. You lose your spouse, you lose your health or your job for a long time, and it's for stuff like that, not so you can go charge all this shit that you can't afford it, obviously. And then how the hell did they get credit cards again after their bankruptcy? Shame on those companies that gave it to them. I bet they had sky-high rates, which is why they got in debt again, paying quadruple what something would originally cost. I'm not saying that. Yeah, of course, there's instances where bankruptcy would be the solution. And there's nothing wrong with living within your means. In fact, it's desired, and you're happier than people that are, just fall for bankruptcy. In my opinion, I never filed for it, so I don't know how I would feel. But the takeaway that my husband got from our premarital counseling, and we got it from our pastor that married us, I was 19 and he was 23. And it was just a one-time deal, but, it really stuck with us. He was good. And my husband still quotes him to this day. He's like, now, remember what Father Brooks said, that sex is not the most important part of a marriage, but sometimes it is the most important part of a marriage. Like, all right, come on, let's go. No, we really did get a lot out of it. I recommend premarital counseling, at least one session. It's better than none. It worked for us. Our 38th wedding anniversary was on April 30th. So I think we've got this nailed down. The kids have been moved out, and that's another trigger time when people will get divorced. We've been through it together, But anyway, why? Okay, how many subjects have I covered in this intro that's supposed to be about Chris and Cortney? Forgive me. Love y'all. And I'm not done yet. Just a few more things, and then I'll be done. So, to finish this up, I just wanted to explain the waiting period. There is no waiting period for getting married in Georgia. You can make a mistake right away, a few minutes after you obtain your marriage license. So, unless there's problems going on in the court, you'll receive your license that day and be able to have a ceremony immediately, a meaningful ceremony. And then you can file for divorce by noon the next day. So, today's verify question was that it had so many questions on the news site that they had to do a little ditty on it. So, and they said there was no waiting period for getting married in Georgia. Oh, I'm sorry, I already said that. The verify question was, are Christopher McNabb and Courtney Bell, the parents that were on trial for the murder of 15-day-old Kalia McNabb that occurred in October 2017, are they first cousins? And they said that their verify source was Pamela Hamby's court testimony. Again, that is both Courtney Bell's biological mother. She did not grow up with her. Her father and his parents raised her, and she just went on partying and having more kids. But and she was Christopher McNabb's lover, girlfriend, party friend. I don't, we can't verify that part but she lied on that shit court, in my opinion. So, the 11 alive, they were all PC and stuff. I don't have to be. The short answer is yes. They are first cousins, but it's important to understand there's more to it than that. They both have a backstory that we don't even know about. I shudder to think about their childhood, honestly.
But I just don't understand how you find somebody guilty of doing something to a 15-day-old baby, because there was no evidence whatsoever that proved anything about me putting my hands on my kids. I've never done it. I never would. I don't believe in it. I was beat as a child, and I don't agree with it at all. And I would never do it. I would never do this. That's all I got to say. I would never do it. I'm innocent.
I did read in some comments somewhere that somebody said that Christopher McNabb, as a young boy, was a very good student in school, very bright. And I'm sure he was very precocious. And it's just too bad how things went and what led them to where they are now, which is in prison. They're both in prison for Clea's murder. And so I've now assembled a short movie for you to watch, and we'll answer all of your burning questions. If not, leave them in the comments. Love you guys. Much love and peace. Thank you for listening to me nanner and ramble and blather on and on and on.
Now, who is Cortney Bell?
She's my daughter,
Okay.
26,
Okay, and who is her mother?
Pam Hamby,
Who raised Cortney?
me.
She got 7 kids. We all got different dads. I'm her middle child. I didn't find out she was my mom until I was 12. I found my baby bracelet in the car door looking for a cigarette at the grocery store. Nobody knew I smoked. And I found my baby bracelet, and I thought she was always a friend of our family. But when I saw her name and my birthday, I figured out she was my mom. Well, I got to know her. We're right. My grandparents, my dad. They had guardianship of me. I never wanted to have kids because I was just always scared that I would turn my back on them like she did me. But when I had Clarissa, my 2-year-old, in my heart, I just knew, that's my baby. That's the whole world. And I just knew that wasn't possible then. But I never had kids until I got with him. I never wanted kids. But it all changed. I didn't want kids because I didn't want to abandon them, for one. But for two, I didn't want to be one of those mothers that had this child with this dad, this child with this dad, because that's just not what I wanted. I wanted a family.
Please state your name.
Pamela Hamby.
And do you have any children?
Yes.
How many?
7.
Is Cortney Bell one of them?
Yes.
Are you related to Chris McNabb?
Yes.
How are you related to him?
I'm his aunt.
So is his brother Michael, or is his father Michael McNabb your brother?
Yes.
You raised Cortney?
No.
Who raised her?
Her grandparents and her dad.
Nevertheless, do you know her?
Yes.
Well, I mean, I'm not trying to be ugly, Pam. I'm really not. But with all due respect, you weren't even involved in your grandchildren's lives. I mean, you weren't involved in Kalia's life or Clarissa's life, were you?
No.
So, do you want the jury to believe that this grandchild was more special to you, or you were somehow involved and you didn't even raise your own daughter?
Just because I wasn't involved doesn't mean I still don't love them.
Mr. Frost?
Thank you. Ms. Hamby, you don't have a particularly good relationship with your daughter, do you?
It's not bad.
In fact, you've got, 7 kids?
Yes.
How many different fathers are there?
5.
And you only raised out of those 2 of those, correct? The others were all raised by their father. Now,
Yes.
But you're actually closer to Chris, aren't you?
No.
Didn't y'all have a secret Facebook account so that you could go behind my client's back?
He had secret Facebook accounts to keep from Cortney to talk to people, but
But-
it wasn't just me and him.
But y'all got together on certain occasions and
No.
had little.
Absolutely not.
Y'all never had any.
No.
But it's hurt Carissa more than it's hurt anybody. Let's hope it does hurt her. But it's hurt me, it's hurt Courtney, it's hurt my dad, it's hurt my stepmom, it's hurt Courtney's kids. I don't know about Pam, she don't really have much of a heart. You know?
Let me ask you about Pam. That's Courtney's mom.
Courtney didn't know it was her mom until she was like 14.
And how's Pam related to you? Tell me about that.
She's my dad's sister. You already knew that stuff.
Well, I didn't know for sure.
It's like this. I never knew Courtney when we were growing up. I never met her. She didn't know who her mom was. She knew Pam, but she didn't know Pam was her mom. She found some paperwork when she was younger. And that's how she found out Pam was her mom. And somehow me and Courtney got to talking. I didn't know who she was at first. I didn't know that she was my cousin. I didn't know that at first. But we didn't ever meet until 2013 when we met. It was like, we knew who we were to each other, but we never knew each other, and you can't stop what you feel from the get-go. When the very first time I ever met her, I knew I loved her. And I know what love is. I know what being in love is about. Because I've been with a lot of women in my time, and I've never felt about a girl the way I felt about Courtney. And she felt the same way. And that's just, and it got started like that. And it was wrong, but I don't apologize for it. Because I love her. I can't help how my heart feels. And she felt the same way. I mean, and if it's embarrassing to people, it embarrassed my dad. He dealt with it because of the baby. I mean, he got over it. He don't like it, but he loves me, and he loves his grandchildren. And he loves Courtney. I mean, but yeah, I mean, Pam's my dad's sister. And that makes Courtney my cousin. And we know that. We both were aware of that. And I don't know, I guess if you think about it, man, I guess most people in the world probably think it's sick.
Well, that's kind of odd.
But at least we both got, the knowledge that we didn't know each other growing up. We didn't grow up together. We were never kids together. When we met, we were both grown and both been through a lot of stuff. So, I mean, yeah, it's odd.
But it is what it is, right?
It is what it is. I would take it back if I could.
I appreciate you clearing that up. I had to hear all this stuff.
Now, did you approve of your daughter's relationship with Mr. McNabb?
No.
Okay. All right. And just to be clear, we've got a diagram here that's been admitted into evidence, Mr. Bell, and it's got some of your relatives on here so that the jury's clear about who everybody is. Just put this up in a few minutes. Okay. So, you're obviously Courtney's father, correct?
Yes.
And Pam Hamby is her mother, is that
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And your sister is who?
Kim Weatherford.
Okay. And then Kim is married to,
Cheryln.
okay. And their children are,
Megan and Craig.
okay. So Courtney is cousins to Megan, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. and you learned from, you believe, your sister on October 3rd that Cortney's children were over at Megan's house. Is that correct?
Yes, I believe that's what it was.
And while we've got this diagram up, Pam Hamby, who is her brother?
Mike.
Mike McNabb?
I always knew him as Mike Hamby. I didn't
Okay.
ever know the McNabbs until way after this here. You know, way after Chris was involved.
Okay.
Then I didn't even know he was a McNabb. They first said his last name was Black, okay, and then it come to a McNabb, okay, and then Mike's name come a McNabb. Like I say, I always knew Mike as a Mike Hamby there for years and years and years. The McNabb name was all new.
But it turns out that Chris McNabb is Pam Hamby's nephew. Is that correct?
Yes,
Which means Cortney and Chris are first cousins. Is that correct?
yes.
Now, you didn't know that Chris and Cortney were related until after they were actually together. is that
Right, yes, sir.
And to the best of your knowledge, they didn't know they were related until they were together. Is that correct?
I don't know. You know, like I say, when I first met him, they said his last name was Black. Okay, and then it was a few months later, a month later, or whatever. You know, it was later before I found out that his name was McNabb. Okay, and then it still didn't register because I knew his daddy Mike as a Hamby. Okay, and then they say Mike's name is McNabb too. So, you know, the McNabb was something whole new. Okay.
And Courtney's mom, that wasn't a long-term relationship that you were in. Is that correct?
No.
She never took any responsibility for Courtney.
No.
She had 7 children.
Right.
Most of them by different fathers.
That's right.
And Courtney was in the middle somewhere.
That's right.
Never wanted anything to do with Courtney.
No, sir.
You took care of her.
Yes.
In fact, Courtney didn't even know that that was her mother until she was 12 years old.
That's right. 12, 13, somewhere around there.
She found out accidentally.
Right.
She found
Yes.
a little band that
That's
was from
right.
the hospital and
Yes.
realized that Pam Hamby was her mother.
Right.
And even after that, Pam Hamby never
No.
treated her as a child.
No. No, Pam never bought her a piece of bubble gum.
She was around in the area, right?
Yes.
But she never had
Right.
anything to do with
No,
Courtney.
sir. I mean, she would come to the house if she got hungry, and we would give her something to eat or whatever. But rather than that, no. And that was probably 20 times from the time Courtney was a baby to Courtney was 12, 13, you know.
Thank you, sir.
Ross?
What would you tell whoever did it?
That you're going to hell. That's where you're going. Killing a youngin' like that, something that little and tiny and defenseless, you are going to hell.
And what was being said, just because somebody has domestic abuse issues with their spouse doesn't mean that they would put their hands on their kids, which has also been pretty much proved that I've never touched my kids in any harmful manner whatsoever. I've never harmed my kids. I didn't even hear anything that said that I had done anything to her in front of the kids. So that doesn't make sense either. I'm innocent. I didn't do it.
Okay.
I've maintained that the whole time. I feel like there was things that were allowed to be said that should have never been allowed to be said that didn't have nothing whatsoever to do with the case.
I wish I could get my hands on him, and I will show y'all on camera what's going through my mind.